Hello everyone and welcome back. It is time for my January reading wrap up and we are already a month through the year already. So January was a great month for reading. I read 10 books altogether, 8 books which I'm going to go through now, 2 SPFBO finalists, and the finalists I read this month were A Song from the Void and The Umbral Storm. So quite a successful reading month as far as I'm concerned. Quite a bit on my Kindle. And just a mix of books. Yeah, I've got lots of notes. Let's just go through it. So, the first book that I started 2023 with was The Book of Zog by Alec Hudson. So, I read this on Kindle Unlimited. What were the great old ones before they were old? In the shadows of ancient horrors, newly birthed Zogras must come to understand his power. He must search for meaning in the space between stars. Hopefully, he'll make some friends along the way. And also, there's a cat. So this has been described as cozy Lovecraftian fantasy, which is really what attracted it to me in the first place. It's not a combination of words that you would normally expect, but it really is quite wholesome, apart from the odd planet-ending threat. I really enjoyed following Zogras as he learned what it is to be alive and making friends with small, squishy beings. This was just wonderfully put together. I had so much fun. I have actually bought a physical copy, but I think it's downstairs. Anyway, I gave this 5 out of 5. The next book I read was also on my Kindle and Kindle Unlimited, and this was Dance Macabre by Laura M. Hughes. The dead beckon, and the little girl obeys. Night after night, she answers the graveyard's call, but she dreads her encounters with the creature that lives there. But she'll soon learn that memories are more dangerous than monsters. This was actually a recommendation from Mark Lawrence, and I am really pleased that I picked this one up. It was beautifully written and atmospheric, but over just that little bit too quickly. The scenes seem to get shorter as we go through the book, and as you are approaching the end, it's almost just a flash of tiny little snapshots of what's going on. But altogether, they tell this really interesting story. I really loved how colour was used. In generally a desaturated world, a flash of colour was used to really grab your attention to something that was going on. I really do need to pick up a physical copy of this one, and I rated it 4 out of 5. The next book I read was We Can Remember It For You Wholesale by Philip K. Dick. This is the 5th collection of his short stories. There are 5 volumes altogether. They're collected chronologically. You read them in whatever order you want. I don't own the middle volumes, I don't think. I own one of the others. I don't know what order I've read these in, but this is the latest one. I've said before with Philip K. Dick that some works are of absolute genius, and sometimes he really needed to leave the drugs alone a bit. This collection is a mess. There are some great stories. The title story actually spawned the film Total Recall, which, let's face it, is a great film. And some are pretty funny, but overwhelmingly there is an obsession with apathetic brunette women and breasts. Large, bouncing breasts. Sometimes they're painted as well. One Goodreads reviewer pointed out that in this collection you can actually spot the moment where his mind broke apart. And you can. Yeah, I gave this 3 out of 5. I do want to go back and read the earlier volumes, but mixed feelings with Philip K. Dick, always. Then, for some reason, I reread The Road. I can't remember what put me in this mood, but I decided it was a great idea to reread this. A father and his young son walk across burnt America, heading for the coast. Nothing moves in the ravaged landscape save the ash on the wind. They have nothing but a pistol to defend themselves against the men who walk the road, the clothes on their back, and a shopping cart full of food they have managed to scavenge. And each other. According to Goodreads, I last read this in 2013, which doesn't feel right somehow. But I couldn't find it on my spreadsheets that I've been keeping since 2017, so maybe that's right. I have watched the film a couple of times recently, so maybe that's what I'm thinking of, because Viggo Mortensen was absolutely perfectly cast for this role, I think, and that's who I picture when I read this. It's one of the starkest written books that I have ever read. There is not a word or even a punctuation mark wasted in this one. And I think it's written with such a mastery of the language that Cormac McCarthy knows which rules he can break and how to break them. The stream of consciousness style really works because most of the book is just between the father and the son. So it does feel like you're just following the father as he's, going across America with his son. It is an incredibly bleak story with some really quite horrific and shocking moments, but it's written with such precision and mastery that it's almost poetic. I gave this 5 out of 5, and I know it's a bizarre book, but it still remains one of my favourites. The next book I read was again on Kindle Unlimited, and this is The Scars of John Redclaw by Anthony Mitchell. They say that some stories are written in blood, but sooner or later it's the scars that tell the truth. No one knows this better than John Redclaw, a man who earned his name fighting alongside the legendary Wolf Eater. His scarred flesh is proof of a life lived, and the price paid. So this takes place chronologically just before Wolf Eater gets started, which honestly is a fantastic book and you need to read it. I really enjoyed this. It's told as a collection of short stories almost, with the overarching narrative of the group around the campfire John is telling them how he got his scars. It's a great way to learn about more of the characters that we had met in Wolf Eater and learn a bit more about how the world is put together. While technically you could read this first as an introduction, I feel you get better context if you're familiar with the characters after reading Wolf Eater. I gave this one a 4 out of 5, and it is another one that I want a physical copy of. Then the next book I read was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. For generations, deadly storms have ravaged Mina's homeland. Her people believe that the sea god, once their protector, now curses them with death and despair. To appease him, each year a maiden is thrown into the sea, hoping that she is the true bride, the one who will help end the curse. Mina throws herself in the sea to save another, and she finds herself swept away to the spirit realm, where she finds the sea god trapped in an enchanted sleep. She sets out to wake him, but there are others who will do anything to prevent the sea god from waking. So this was a cover buy. I actually saw this in Waterstones. Didn't buy it at the time, but bought it another time. I posted this on Twitter basically going, oh my god, look at this. And I know at least one other person who bought this because I posted it. This is described as for fans of Spirited Away, which really, got my attention. That's one of my favourite films. And yeah, this really does give those vibes. I really love the atmosphere and sense of otherworldliness that's present as we go through the spirit realm. Mina is really a great character to follow. She does what she needs to do. She doesn't wait to be rescued. She knows what needs to be done, and she sets out to do it herself. I did find the pacing was a bit up and down. At times we really took ages to establish anything and get anywhere, but then there were times that things was happening so quickly I had to go back and reread bits because it was apparent that I was missing things. Overall, I really enjoyed it though, and I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. So, Elspeth Spindle needs more than luck to stay safe in the mist-shrouded kingdom of Blunder. She needs a monster. She calls him Nightmare, an ancient mercurial spirit trapped in her head. He keeps her safe, he keeps her secrets, but nothing comes for free, especially magic. This was great. It did take a little while to get going, I've got to admit. I was reading the start and I was thinking, I'm not quite sure I'm getting on with this, but I pushed through and it was so worth it. I really enjoyed exploring the world. It's such an interesting magic system based around different cards. That was interesting to discover, and we spent the entire time with this learning more and more what was going on. Just the revelations as we learn more about the history of the world and again how the magic works, and this is how you do a cliffhanger ending. It really is. By the time I got to the end, I was just wanting more. I really loved this. Can't wait for the sequel. Gave it 5 out of 5. Then the final book I read in January was Silver Sands by Gareth L. Powell, and this was a gift from Tufty on Twitter. Interstellar travel is unpredictable. No one quite knows where they're gonna end up. Avril Bradley is a communication officer on a ship that's sent out to reconnect with these human colonies that have spread around the galaxy. But a mysterious explosion strands her on a world of political intrigue, espionage, and subterfuge. A world full of retired cops, digital ghosts, and corporate assassins, all after some important data that has been locked away for more than a century. This is a really interesting concept, but I did find it a touch underdeveloped compared to his more recent work. There is so much going on all the time that the plot doesn't really develop with one point of view character before we're jumping along to the next. A really fun story though, and it concludes well. I give this one a 3 out of 5. So those were all the books that I read in January. I would love to know what you read. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you all soon.